Can a Stanley Cup really survive the intense heat of a car fire? Are they worth 4 times the cost of their competition? Is there lead in them that poisons you with every sip? We intend to find out. We have a Stanley Cup, a no-name brand, and a hydro flask in that car burning right now. We're going to see how they look when they're done. No way.
But before all that, we need some Stanleys. And we need to run some other tests on them before they're completely destroyed in the fire.
Oh, jackpot. Here we go.
The first question we want to ask is, are they even worth the hype? Let's test them against some much cheaper alternatives. The lineup is the Stanley Cup, the knockoff, a normal glass of water with ice in it, and a styrofoam cup. At 2 hours in, the glass cup is already out of ice, but the Stanley and replica are still holding strong. In fact, their temperature is dropping. 24 hours in, and shockingly the Stanley seems to be noticeably outperforming the knockoff. Impressive. 53 hours later, the Stanley is finally starting to come up to room temperature. 5 degrees cooler than the knockoff is actually fairly impressive, maybe just not worth 4 times the price markup. We'll have to see how they compare in the Waterjet cutting test, the lead poisoning test, and of course the car fire test. To see why the Stanley performed better, we needed to get a closer look, so we'll use our Waterjet to cut both the Stanley and the knockoff in half. This cross-section should answer our questions. If you're new around here, this is our Waterjet. It uses water mixed with tiny garnet crystals to shoot them out at 60,000 psi. The water comes out at over 1,200 miles per hour and can cut through practically anything. The cross-section reveals that both the cups look very similar, but the Stanley has a nicer plug, which is probably why it performed better. Now the burning question you've all been waiting for. That's right, the lead test. This controversy has spread like wildfire on social media this past week. Let's find out if it's a real concern. I scratched up the insides. The inside of the Stanley Cup scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves at level 7. I scratched up the outsides, the paint, all over these things. But I couldn't get any of the lead tests to come out positive. That is, until we had a bright idea. The heat from this blowtorch should soften up any potential lead. And right away, we already see the liquid from the swab has turned a deep red color. Looks like we've struck lead. A quick final swab confirms our finding. Online research even backs this claim up. One of the heads of Stanley actually did come out and say that they do use lead to seal it off. However, no matter how much I pried and picked at it, I could not get it to come off. So from these tests, I'd say that as long as you're not cooking dinner on the bottom of your precious emotional support water bottle, you should be fine. Still, I think we would all just sleep a little better at night knowing that Stanley doesn't use poisonous metals in their manufacturing process. Okay, now it's really time for the moment you've all been waiting for. Will this Stanley protect our beloved ice from the dangers of an actual car fire? Let's go find a car to burn and tow it to the fire academy. Oh yeah, we also need a tow truck.
Hey, can I use your tow truck?
I guess so. Truck's gonna borrow you.
So we got our tow truck. Only problem is, she won't start. Ironic. So we'll give it a jump and then head on over to the scrapyard to get our vehicle. Our specimen has been selected. It's a beautiful 2005 Ford Expedition.
Alright, that's not going anywhere. Still got the interior, looks all nice. I mean, it's almost a shame that we're going to be burning this to the ground.
This does seem a bit unnecessary, so let me explain. The Fire Academy actually performs practice burns with vehicles in order to get valuable training experience. We contacted our local academy and they said if we brought the vehicle, they would let us burn it. Car fires are incredibly dangerous, so these practice runs provide essential experience for any firefighters in training. Now when a real car fire happens, and human lives are at stake, they'll be ready for the challenge. We got the vehicle into place.
Hey, you can't park there, Hoss.
I topped off the cups with fresh ice and water and I put them inside the cab.
One last sip. They said not to drink that water. Oh, should we leave the monster in? For the sake of a good test, we should put it in a similar place as the Stanley. However, this guy we might put in the back just to see how it does back there.
If you watch the viral video, you can see that the seats aren't really that burned. Our car fire got so hot it melted the aluminum and made a pool of it on the ground. Now let's get this experiment going by lighting up this flammable starter material. It took a while for the fire to really get going. The firemen had to break a window in order to give the fire more oxygen. After that, it really started to pick up. Within just moments, the blaze started to get out of hand. It quickly went from a small flame to a completely overwhelming inferno. The flames quickly became so hot that I could feel a lot of heat even from over 50 feet away. What was crazy to me about this whole experience is how quickly it got out of hand. I mean, I've messed around with fire a lot of times before and done things that are pretty dumb. But watching this fire go from the size of a campfire to engulfing the entire car really made me realize just how powerless you are in a situation like this. This experience really gave me a lot of respect for our first responders. These sorts of events happen every single day all across the world, and the average person is completely unable to do anything about it. So I'm very glad we have people like this around to keep us safe. Alright, that's enough gushing. Let's check in on this fire. At this point, the fire is really cooking. They said this one was a lot bigger than your typical car fire because we really wanted to push these Stanley cups to the limit, and we asked them to wait to put it out. I mean, I'm afraid to say it, but these Stanley cups might not be doing too hot. Now it's time for the firefighters to act. This was so cool to watch. The fire looks so dangerous, and these guys just walk up to it like it's nothing and immediately start drenching the car in water. Keep in mind, not only is the flame so hot it's noticeable from 50 feet away, but on top of that, they're tasked with controlling the fire hose that can kick back with up to 150 pounds of force. They have a systematic approach to how they spray down the car. First they get the bulk of the flame dealt with, then another firefighter uses a special tool to pierce the nearest tire. This keeps the vehicle from rolling away and also keeps it from exploding, which is incredibly loud and dangerous. In fact, it's so scary that the firefighters call it a code brown. They were able to quickly put out the bulk of the flame, and within another minute or two they had the flame put out completely. Color me impressed. On top of that, there are many additional hazards to worry about, namely explosions. Tires can explode, airbags will explode, suspension struts will explode, even the glass can explode, sending red hot shards straight at you. Now we're ready to answer the big question we've all been waiting for. The title of this video: did our Stanley Cup survive an actual car fire? At this point, we've spent our whole week setting up this experiment. We felt every emotion on the spectrum, and we're very curious to see if the Stanley Cup survived.
I'm gonna take a wild guess that Stanley Cup is burnt to a crisp. It is made out of stainless steel, but I don't know how hot it got in there. It might have gotten hot enough to melt steel.
Checking out the back of the vehicle doesn't have me very hopeful. The whole thing is scorched. But then we looked in the driver's side door, and to my amazement, there it was in all its glory, still in the center console, at a little bit of an angle. Let's pull it out. The steel shell is intact, but I kinda doubted the lid and water wouldn't have been incinerated.
90% sure that's the Stanley. Oh, yep. There's the no-name brand. Wow. Wow. All right, here they are. Let's look at the aftermath. The hydro flask is not looking great. It looks like the vacuum might have pulled on it or something and it kind of collapsed. The no-name, also not looking great, but it kind of survived. There's the lid. Straw's still intact. Wow. Stanley, also looking, there's still water in it. There, sounds like there's no more ice. There we are. That's why you wear the Caterpillar boots. Look at that. Even the top, like, it's not as melted as I thought it would be. I thought it would be missing. It's here. It exists, which is a surprise to me.
The lid is burned, but it's still intact. And even after all that, the water is still in the cup. The ice was gone, which doesn't surprise me. But considering how hot and long that fire burned, the fact that there's any water at all is impressive. Not only that, the water was cold.
Massive shout out and thank you to the UVU Recruit Candidate Academy for letting us film here. This is actually my brother. He's in the academy right now. Couldn't be more proud of him.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super excited we were able to do this today. I've actually never put out a car fire before, so forgive any mistakes.
Oh, you are forgiven.
Yeah, thanks also to Ron at the Orem Pick Apart. They provided the car today for these educational purposes, so make sure you guys are taking notes today. Thanks for watching.
Let's see if these are really worth the hype or if they're just a waste of money for white girls. Oh!